Hey everyone, welcome to the Author Spotlight. This is sponsored by Your Author Hub, and I'm your host, Cynthia Barton, an avid book reader and a lover of all things books. We're here on the Author Spotlight today, where we talk to all kinds of authors about their books and their writing style and all their habits. So today I want you to join me in welcoming Carol Oschmann. And she's going to be with us today, and she's talking about several of her books. But today we're going to specifically start her book, God's Golden Sword, as seen in my dreams for others. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about today. I believe very much in the power of dreams. And so, Carol, I just want to say welcome, and we're excited to hear your message today. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit about who you are and about this important book.
Okay. Well, I'm 85. I was married to my husband for 65 years, and I didn't figure myself a writer until I reached the age of about 40. And I had a series of spiritual experiences that led me to writing and to mainly to dreaming for other people. Uh, it seems to be a gift, but I've written it because I hope other people will try and do the same. It's been a big help to the 400 plus people I've dreamed for.
Well, that's exciting. Tell us a little bit about how that happened. And I'm assuming the book was inspired out of that experience. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I well, I was having trouble with nightmares, and I figured it was time I found out what other people knew about dreams. So I bought this book, and the very first line said, "God speaks to you in dreams."
Mhm.
I believed it totally, and I followed the directions of keeping a pad next to my bed, and some wonderful things began to happen. The nightmares stopped, and then things seemed to be directing me in my life. And the very first one showed me that in my car, which is my life, uh, there was a trunk full of illegal hams. And I just woke up laughing my head off because I knew I was way overweight. And that that got me to writing notes to God and having what I call a two-way conversation.
Mhm.
I would write a note, and my first note was, "How do I lose the weight? I've been through all these weight loss programs. How do I lose it?" Well, we ended up, I got an answer. We ended up doing this 3 or 4 times before I finally hit the right one. And I lost like 50 pounds within months. And I wasn't really unhappy in my business. We owned a marina, and that's where a lot of the incidences started. Um, let me tell you, the very first one, this man was pulled in from the lake. He was out there in a aluminum rowboat with a little motor but no gas, and he intended to commit suicide. And that was such a beautiful day. He couldn't do it, and he waved down to the boaters, and they pulled him in. He told my husband his story, and my husband sent him up to my house to tell me because he told him my wife will help you. What he'd done, he had uh, owned a beautiful restaurant in the middle of Rochester, New York. He went in one day and found everything gone, not a table or a freezer or anything left. And he opened his bank account, everything was gone. His partner had wiped him out. He said to me, "I'm 56 years old, for crying out loud. How do I make a living? I can't start a new career now. I'm living off my mother, and that's not going to last forever." So I dreamed for him. He, what I saw was going up and down stairs, and up at the top of the stairs, I'm fixing plumbing. All night long, I'm doing this. The next morning, I told him and we discussed it. And I said to him finally, how about the old, big old houses in Rochester that people are turning into apartments? Is there something? His eyes just lit right up. He said, you got it, Carol. He said, that's how I started my life, my working life. I sold all my houses and bought the restaurant. He said, I can do it again, collect the rents and make the repairs. That's a job for me. 10 years later, I checked up on him, and he was a building inspector for the county of Monroe. So
Wow.
that
And so just so I'm clear. So did you have a dream about this for this gentleman, or it was just because you'd had this relationship that you built with God, having dreams and talking to him, that you were able to help the man?
I had helped a few other people, nothing as serious as this, but I
Hmm.
helped a few other people before that. That's why my husband thought I could solve his problem.
Right.
And the dream for him was walking up and down these stairs fixing plumbing.
Okay. So you got a portion of it in your dream, and when you relate it to him, he knew exactly what that meant.
He knew exactly. And that's
Wow.
the way that works. I won't know what the dream means because I don't know their lives, but
Right.
they know exactly.
Right, exactly. Well, scripture does tell us that God does speak to us in our dreams.
Mm.
And my husband's a dreamer. And so a lot of times he'll have a dream about something that we're going to do, or if we're doing work with someone, he may have a dream that also gives us some instructions. So I totally understand that. So from that experience, you've written the book out of this experience, or several experiences like that.
I have done it over 400 times. I was
Wow.
on the verge of throwing my journals out, thinking my family wouldn't appreciate them. And my dream group that met my house said, tear out the ones that you dreamed for other people. So I did. And I was surprised it was almost 400 at that time. And I've done many since.
Wow. And
So
so people, you're known for this? People contact you about this, or is it just in your everyday interactions?
God seems to bring them to me. I did, in my younger days, I did do a series of speeches, Parents Without Partners. I helped a lady there who was on the verge of suicide. In fact, the night I called her, she was just hung up from the suicide hotline. And the dreams told her that her husband she'd lost recently was still with her. And he told me 18 different things that were in their life together
Hmm.
and in her life now since he
Yeah. So that brought great comfort to her, I'm assuming.
absolutely she quit her job that was also mentioned in the dreams, and she went into real estate, and she found a ladies group, a writers group, and she began they all believed in dreams, and she finally found her people.
Right.
She could talk to them, and that really changed her life around.
Yeah, it's important to find a group of people that I call them at times your tribe, people that you can relate to, that think like you do, and that have the same goals on the same heading that you do.
Mhm.
So you said that you'd written several books, but the book God's Golden Sword, as seen in my dreams for others, is the book how to, or is it stories about things that have happened in the past? Talk about the book a little bit. Tell us what it entails.
The first half tells my childhood and up to the marina days and what I was going through and how I wasn't really a dreamer until the nightmares started, I mean. And then a lot of the spiritual experiences happened at the marina. There were others. And then we moved and we sold the marina and we moved south. And I found my tribe there in Sun City Center. And I did a lot. I did sermons in churches and spoke among all different kinds of groups.
Hmm. And
Dream,
so this is a continuing thing that's still active in your life, is what you're saying.
Yes, it is. But the second half is a whole bunch of stories like the two I told you.
Uh-huh.
Some are just people who wanted to hear from loved ones who passed. A young man didn't get a chance to talk to his father about something important, and we settled that in a dream. And one dream just popped into my head that for the town grocer. I didn't know him. I knew his face and his name. Uh, but I had this dream where his father came and told me his son could do anything he wanted to. He could be the president if he wanted. So I didn't know I didn't know how to handle it because I was kind of an outcast. People thought I was a kook. And I wrote him a note and told him, well, he called me right away, knowing, telling me that it was his father visiting and giving a message that he should go ahead with his plans to open a series of stores. And he did. He opened up like 9 stores during the time I knew him.
So do you instruct other people how to have conversations with God through the book, or is that something that you do in your life? I seem to remember that you said something about it, or I read something about that. Is that right?
Yeah, the book will lead you step by step through what happened to me and
Mhm.
what you have to be on the lookout for. Um, you can get these dreams that tell you how to live your life and you just poo-poo them and go about what your ego says you want to do.
Right.
And it
I
does,
totally understand that. Yeah.
you know,
So was this your first book, or is it in a, a number within the number of the books you've written?
oh, it was proud, it could be about my third. I, um, I got thrown out of my church because I talked about dreams. It was a Methodist church and made me kind of angry at Christians. So I took the Bible and I went through and there's like the word dreams is mentioned 134 times in the Bible. And so I wrote a book, Biblical Dream Study, and it will tell you the dreams of the Bible and how they're really messages, lessons for us. I mean, every preacher takes a little verse and turns it into a lesson for us. Well, Jacob's ladder, his fight with the monsters, Joseph's uh, nearly getting killed by his brothers. They're all messages for us and tell us how to live our lives and follow our dreams, how to interpret our dreams. Um, also, when I was in Florida, I got to live in a I got to go into a federal prison and teach the ladies there how to interpret their dreams. I did that for 3 years, and amazing stories came out of that. I knew I had to write a book because it just proves that uh, God loves you no matter what you've done, and He'll help you.
I totally agree with that. He does love us, and he does want to have relationship with us, and he does want to help us. I do agree with that. I do have a question because I'm a bit confused, so I want to make sure that I'm assuming that if I am, maybe some of our listeners may be. So you had said that you taught people to interpret their dreams. So do you do interpretation of dreams, or do you teach them how to dream?
Well,
Uh,
I do both.
Okay. Okay.
I've led dream groups for many years,
Okay.
and in my dream group, we also very rarely, but occasionally, dream for each other. If somebody has a problem that they just can't solve, we'll pass around the paper, and everybody, this person has the problems, writes their name that many times, and so we can take it back and we can hold the paper with their name, their essence on it in our hands and pray about it before we go to sleep. And then we tuck it under our pillows and keep our hand on it. And that night, the dream will be for them. And when we do it in a group, well, there might be 7 or 8 people in this group. uh, we'll see 7 or 8 pieces of that person's life that we had no way of knowing. And within those answers, will come the solution to the problem.
Okay. My only reason why I clarifying, because at first you'd said when the gentleman about the job, you said that you told him you don't know what the dream means, but at some
Well,
point you um, grew into the interpretation apparently. Is that correct?
well, the interpretation comes in when with your own dreams.
Oh,
God,
okay.
Jesus spoke in parables, and he still does in your dreams, and you have to figure out what they mean. Uh, like in the first one I told you, the car is your travel through life, and you figure it out. But there's lots of ways, lots of books on the subject.
Mhm.
I like the group work best because if you have 7 or 8 people, you have 7 or 8 different ideas, and only the dreamer will know for sure what is the right answer. The others are guesses.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also, as you can see, I have tons of books and I have a section over here that's all about dreams. And one of the things that I have found, and I have not written a book on dreams, so I don't want to, but one of the things I have found is that when people make a general statement such as, well, if a dog is in your dream, this is what it means. I have found that not always to be true. Like I said, I'm not a dream person, because every person has a different idea what a dog means to them.
Absolutely.
What a dog means to me and what a dog means to someone else could be two different things. And so I
Right.
think it's important that the person who has the dream or the dream is about them really needs to confirm whether what the message really means.
The dog can be warm and cuddly, or it can be vicious.
Right, exactly. Just depends on your experience and how you feel about dogs. So I do agree with that. And so do you do any uh discussion about different influences in our dreams other than ourselves or God himself?
Well, our loved ones come quite often. We don't always realize it. I've heard some people say they were totally in fear of it, but it's a wonderful happening. But yes, I've studied Carl Jung, and he's the father of inner work. And we can, if there's an older lady in my dream, I can refer to her as the old crone part of me. Or if there's an authority figure, like I had this in prison, I had this one girl running from the cops, and the authority figure could be God. And I told her to go back into the dream. I teach them how to go back into the dream and turn around and face whoever is chasing you and ask, what do you want from me? And you might be surprised.
Yeah. And so I may have worded my question incorrectly, so maybe I'll let me redirect. So are you suggesting, or do you say in the book that all dreams are things that we need to take direction? Or I mean, we talk about, I had a pizza dream. Or, do you feel like there are influences outside of what we should be taking direction? Is there any kind of instruction in that area, or are you in the belief that all dreams are of value?
There, there are some that I think if you've eaten too much of the wrong thing,
Right.
that, that
We call them pizza dreams, and it's not always pizza. It's just, and I
right.
also think sometimes if we're worried about something, we may mix that up and we're trying to problem solve in our dreams. I agree with that.
But then again, the answer to your problem might be there in your dream.
It may be, yes, I
It's
agree.
good to write it down and to really think it out and look at all the different characters that are in there and objects. Objects mean a lot too.
Yeah, they do. And so, how long is your book? This book, God's Golden Sword and Dreams for, as seen in my dreams for others.
Let me see. I'm not sure. about 200 pages.
That's good. That's good. Because I know they tell you 150 to 200 pages is about all people will really read. So that's beautiful. Did you have the cover designed or did you design it yourself?
A friend of mine designed it, and he gave me 3 different designs, and my family chose that one.
Hmm.
Because it was colorful.
Hmm.
I'm a little bit disappointed in the sales. I'm a lot disappointed in the sales, and I'm on the verge of changing the cover. I think it's too foo-foo. It's dreamy. I liked it because it has a dream quality to it.
Hmm.
Woman lost in the field
Hmm.
and looking at the sky.
Yeah.
Uh, but maybe that's stopping the sales. I don't know.
Hmm. I thought it was a beautiful picture, a beautiful cover. I thought it was very inviting myself.
Oh,
When I saw it, I thought, oh wow, that's pretty very inviting. Some, but every person has their own ideas. Maybe there aren't as many people interested in dreams as we are. That could be the case as well. So, how long has this book been out?
it was first published under the title When God Stood Up.
Okay.
And on the cover is a boat with all different religious symbols in the boat. And the thing is, we're all together in life's ocean. And what happened, the story inside is what happened to me when God stood up and how it rocked my boat.
Yeah. So this is the same manuscript, or had you changed it when you?
The only thing changed is I've added my early years, from birth to 8, that I hadn't put in the other one.
So how long ago was the story, the first story, and then now the second story released?
Oh, the first story was released in 2001, I believe.
Okay.
This one was released recently.
Okay. So it's been out for a little bit, in other words, but not too terrible long. So, and are your other books that you've written in the same style, about dreams or other things?
Yeah, they're dreams, different ways of dreaming. I have one that's doing very well. It's called He's Not Gone, and this is uh, what the dreams and how my husband came to me before he passed and after he passed. And I'm on the verge of writing a sequel to that because he continues to come from time to time,
Okay.
and he'll tell me what's going to happen, or uh, he'll shake me to work on something. I remember one morning, uh, my family was all coming. I was all alone. The whole family was coming for my birthday, and my dream was that he was poking my shoulder, saying, "They're here." And I looked at the clock, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, it's time to get up and get the house ready for company. But
So
think,
So, Carol, this program is all for people that are book lovers like I am, and people who love to read books, and the podcast, and also it also has a large audience of authors who are learning to write themselves and are writing their books. Um, Talk about how you wrote this book. Was it a one sitting, or I think you mentioned something about maybe some journals? Did you put together journals? What was your writing process like?
this book was writing journals. I began uh, writing since had a marina. I wrote feature stories and gave photographs for ports on Lake Ontario, both Canadian and American. And I didn't know a thing about writing. And this lady just walked into my life who was an English teacher, and she ended up being the president of a small local college. And she and I would meet for lunch, and she'd go over what I was writing for the boating magazine, and she had scissors and tape, and she would cut my paragraphs apart, and she'd rearrange them, and it was just amazing when she rearranged my thoughts, how it flowed so much better. And I really have to thank her for bringing me that far along.
Yeah, I think there's great value in having a great editor. That's for sure, because they can take the same thought and put it in a different order and it makes the thought better, more powerful. I
Right.
agree. I agree with that. So that was, you were apparently writing a boating or a marina magazine. Is that right? And so
Yes.
you took those skills when you began to write your book, or did you also have her as an editor during that writing process?
No, I just had her for the uh, the book this the books on dreams. I kind of wrote after I moved to Florida, and this lady was in the Rochester area, in the Marina area, and but she was a big help.
Good. So, Carol, what else can you tell us about the book that would be encouraging to our listeners?
Well, I, I've learned a lot of things through it, and some of them might shock you because there were things I wouldn't have believed, had you told me
Right.
beforehand, like the people who are past can are still watching over you and still can talk to you and answer your questions. Um, Another one is past lives. Uh, until I dreamed for someone and saw their past life, I wouldn't have believed it. And since then, I've gone into meditation and uh, done some of my own past lives, and they were very believable. I was burned at a stake in a couple of them, and
And so that is also in your book?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So we had talked about a lot of the stories that are in the book. Is it filled full of stories? Is that what each chapter is about, and or how does that book flow?
It flows. The first one chapter is on people who are thinking about committing suicide. The second one is I'm doing this from memory now.
Hmm.
Is on past lives, and another one is on speaking to loved ones who've passed over. Another one is about, should I'm all alone, should I look for a mate? Or what should I look for in a mate? And the answers that God gave them. And I have one that's on music. I get a lot of music in my dreams. Um, and I have a whole section on that and uh, how it interacted with the question I'd been asked that night and the dreams that I had.
So do you have music in your background? Is just trying to put the two together.
Uh, I always liked music. I sang with Sweet Adelines in Rochester for a while.
So you do have some music in your background. So do you agree that our dreams really use our past experiences
Oh
to?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, all right.
right.
Wow. Hmm.
My mother was one who we'd as soon as we get in the car, she'd start singing. And I guess I got that from her.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you like to say to someone who may be thinking about the book, but they're not quite sure, or it's kind of a two-sided question, and or an author that's thinking about they may have a message but they're not sure, how would they proceed?
I dream about it. I guess.
I guess that's a pretty
Just
good answer from what you shared with us so far.
just start writing. That's all I can say. Somehow, the Holy Spirit takes over and puts the words in your head, and but then have it edited. I totally believe in editors,
Mhm.
and I would have been lucky to have made friends with editors, professional editors. One in Florida and now one up here. I'm still writing, and they don't want any. They just want a chance to help other people. They don't want. So I don't know. Maybe whatever your topic is, that someone just might write, walk into your life that can help you out.
Okay. Okay. So, from the book or from your life experiences and all the books that you've written, what theme maybe would you attach to this book that you would inspire people to want to buy the book?
It's on Amazon for $12.99 in paperback.
Okay. Um, and so, are there instructions for people who have never dreamed? Do you run into that, people who say, I don't dream?
Yeah, oh yes. My thought is that as a child you were scared and your parents poo-pooed it, uh, calmed you down, and it was nothing. It's a shame that we don't gather around the breakfast table and talk about our dreams. Uh,
Okay.
People wouldn't be afraid of them then. Uh, that is my biggest advice, is to start making that a part of the family conversation.
Yeah. And so, what else can you tell me about, or our listeners about book writing and how much, you'd mentioned that you're in your 80s and you're still writing.
Yeah.
Is it therapeutic for you? And how much time do you devote to writing? And how do you develop what you're going to write and so on and so forth?
Well, it's the ideas that come to me. I've just done biblical dream study over again, and waiting. I'm having trouble with the words on the back cover, um, but that'll be out pretty soon. It, I've rewritten it and had it re-edited, and then the thought came to me as I had yet another dream from my husband, that it's time to do an update on that, and that's my next project. I just wait for the inspiration to hit me.
And so, um, I want to ask a question, but I don't want it to be offensive. So please don't. I'm just trying to figure out how to ask this. You'd mentioned that you were asked to leave your church. So would you consider this a all religious type book or a Christian type book, or does it have any relationship to religion, or is it, explain that if you could.
It's totally. I've taken all the times dreams are mentioned in the Bible. I've taken them and explained how we can get a lesson from that story.
Okay, so
There-
uh
There's
so you're
no animosity in it at all.
oh,
Even
no, no, that's okay. I just wanted, I was trying not to be offensive because some people get offensive if I ask questions of probe in a certain area. So, but back to my original, your title says God, but are you equating it to any type of religion, or just having a relationship with God, or that all people can hear from God, or that's where I'm trying to go with that.
all people can. And God's golden sword is from the story in Maccabees. It's a book in the Catholic Bible that I was not familiar with, but
Mhm.
someone walked in my life and put it in my hands. And Judas Maccabee was about to go to war, and he was scared stiff. How's my little group going to fight off the enemy? And all we've got are rocks and sticks. And he asked God that night to give him some idea what he could do.
Mhm.
And God told him to remember all the good things that God had done for him in his life. And that was his golden sword that God was handing him. Tell your soldiers to remember the good things that I've done for you and fight for that. And he won the war.
So is that story in the book as well?
Yes, that story's in there.
Okay, so your content isn't necessarily just what we would consider the Holy Scripture or the Bible per se. It's other resources as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I was trying to go, is trying to find out whether it was strictly what you would find in the Bible or whether you were using your own experiences and other resources as well as the background.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what else, you had mentioned that you had some stories that you wanted to tell. Is there, we have some time here if you'd like to share some of the stories.
Okay. Um, well, golly, there's so many. One lady that my husband was doing work for, hanging a fan in Sun City Center, she was all upset. So an older woman, and she told my husband she was involved in a lawsuit, and she thought her lawyers were uh, ignoring her. She would call and she felt not welcomed. And so he said, "Well, call my wife and she'll dream for it." Well, that night I I had a vision of this bar across my chest that reminded me. I don't know if you're familiar with Carol Burnett's uh, little bit about the drapes. She had the curtain rod across her and the drapes.
Scarlett O'Hare, yeah.
Yeah.
With
Well,
it, Gone with the Wind, yes.
yeah. And down the material that went on this bar down my back was the soft white material. When I called her the next morning, she said, "Oh my God." She said, "You've got a gift, Carol." She said, "That is how my husband died. That's what the lawsuit is all about. He slipped through the bars of his bed in the hospital."
Mm,
And, you know,
mm,
I wouldn't know.
yeah. And so that helped her in some way?
Oh, yes. She decided just to be patient, hang in there, and let God handle it. She
Mhm.
felt that God and her husband were in charge.
Mm.
She would
Okay,
just
awesome. And so, I think I mentioned this as well. I'm trying to remember what we talked about, what we haven't. So you have additional books, and they're also in regards to reading, and then you have the biblical dream book, when you went through the Bible and written out all the scriptures that pertain to dreams. Is that correct?
yeah.
Okay.
My favorite one is the Finding Spirit in Prison Inmates' Dreams. Um, my very first night there teaching, eh, it was a blur. There were so many people in the room. And finally, this one lady, I called her lady, but she broke through. She said, I'm going home next week, and I've had this dream." And she said she dreamt she went into a morgue and to identify her boyfriend's dead body. When she got in there, her uh, yeah, it was her boyfriend, and she pulled out a drawer and there's a baby sitting up and playing. And she left the room and then she got to wondering and turned around and went back. Well, then the boyfriend's sitting up playing with the baby. And she says, "Don't tell me that I'm going to get back with that so and so and have a baby." She says, "No way am I going to do that." And so we started interpreting the dream, taking the different images. And the dead, everything is her in the dream. Everything is you in your dreams, can be. And he was something that was dead inside her. I said, "If you ask me for my old lady's opinion, it's the part that can make a living. You quite often look to a man to support you." And she says, "Well, that's right. I have no idea how to make a living." And I said, "The baby is something that's in you, and you know what it is because it's not a brand new baby. It's sitting up and playing." I said, it could be a talent." And the whole room, they all knew her and they all shouted out to her, "It's your singing." It seems that she'd been entertaining in the prison. And so uh, my advice to her, and this was strictly from Carol, my advice to her was to keep music in her life. join a church, if only for the reason of getting a chance to sing in the choir. Advertise that you'll sing at weddings. I said, I don't care if you're clerking in a store or mopping floors or what you're doing, but keep this music in your life, and God will open other doors for you because He opened many for me."
Mhm. And so is this, I'm, this woman, was she in prison? There was something about prison when you first started. Okay, so you went into a prison to
But
speak.
she was an inmate, and later that week, the chaplain called me, and she said that many lives were changed that night.
So you've helped quite a few people throughout your years and your book as well, apparently. Have you gotten any feedback on the book?
Oh, I've sold quite a few of them. People will buy it for themselves because it gives you a good idea of interpreting dreams. I put it down just as I led the girls through each of their dreams. I would put everything on a board and circle the important words and take them off to the side, and we discuss the words and the different meanings. And then the person who had the dream would all of a sudden say, "Oh, I know what it is." And so I assume the reader can do that also.
Mhm.
Plus, if you have a relative or a friend in prison, it makes a wonderful gift for them.
And so I agree with something you mentioned at the very beginning of our talk. You talked about being in a group and how valuable it is to be able to bounce ideas and talk through with someone. And I agree, specifically, and especially for, I'm not a man, so I can't speak to a man, but specifically for women, because we think outside of ourselves. So I've always encouraged my friends and the people that I'm in a relationship with, we discuss the sort of things because they help us see sides of things that we may not see until they say it. So I totally agree with that. So, well, Carol, what else can you tell us about the book? We're closing up here in the next 5 or 10 minutes, and just want to make sure you can tell the stories that you feel like are a good um, basis for the book and what the message that you're trying to get your reader to hear and understand.
Well, the one that pops into my head right away is this. My daughter sent me to this hairdresser, and he was male, and I didn't think anything of it because it was a kind of a huge thing. There was hairdresser, barber shop, jewelry, uh, tanning beds. It was a big operation, and the whole family worked there. There were several brothers and sisters, and he's the one who wanted to uh, have a discussion with his father. He had something weighing heavy, and it was funny. I had really had strict rules back then. I said, had him write his name on a piece of paper. And I said, now I go to bed about 9 o'clock. I said, you make sure you're in bed at 9 o'clock. He said, I will. And then he totally forgot about it. And he got a chance to go out and party. And that's what he did. And I didn't have any dreams up until about 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's like this huge wind just could have knocked me off my bed. Uh, didn't bother my husband, but so I knew it was someone's spirit coming in. And I told him the next day about it, and I said it was so strong. I felt like it had to be two people because I've never felt it before. And he said, "Well, didn't I tell you I'm a twin?" And that explained that to him. And then I saw the first dream I saw. Uh, this living room, and everybody sitting around sad faced and no Christmas decorations. And neighbors came in and put up a tree and decorated and made dinner for them. And his answer to that was that that's the way their last Christmas was, because dad had passed just before Christmas.
Hmm.
And the second one, I'm in a fire station and I want to sleep there. And it's against the rules, but the fire chief is on my side, and he has the men build a Trojan cow over a fire truck out in the parking lot, and I can sleep there. And I said to him, "Does that make any sense to you?" And he said, "Yes, that is the answer to my question. Father knows I'm gay." He said, "The fire trucks, the firehouse, the firemen, that's all my passion." He was like 22 years old. He said, "I'm just burning up with passion. The Trojan cow is how I have to protect myself." And then I had a third dream for him. I was in this supermarket in the checkout line, and we were all angry at the clerk. And we started mimicking the song that they sang on TV. And I said, "Now, do you know what that's about?" I knew the name of the store, and it's very popular, so I won't mention it. But he said, "Yes, I know exactly what that's about." He said, "Our property backs up to their warehouse." He said that for years they've been trying to buy us out, and my dad wouldn't sell. And on his deathbed, Dad said, "Do not sell to them, whatever you do." So, in other words, Dad was saying there's more important things in life than being gay.
Hmm.
To
And so
just,
all of these dreams were for the same young man?
yeah, all the same night.
Hmm. So we have just a couple minutes left. Carol, what else what would you say to someone to express the importance of them getting your book and why they would want to get your book and who you wrote the book for?
I think if you need convincing to it'll make you not just believe in God. The churches ask us to have faith, but it'll teach you there is a God. You follow what I did, and you will know that the information you need comes from a source higher than you. And I hope to make believers of everybody who reads the book. And that's the reason I hope they read the book.
Well, I do want to thank you, Carol, for coming today and explaining to us about God's golden sword as seen in my dreams for others. And for those of you that have been watching, this is Carol Oschmann, and she has been our guest today, and she's written that book, and she has several books in regards to dreams. But we're out of time today. But I hope that you've enjoyed listening, and I hope that you've enjoyed hearing the stories and hearing about her life. And we want to thank you for joining us today. And we want to thank our sponsor, yourauthorhub.com, for helping us make this the author spotlight happen. We appreciate the time that we get to speak with our authors. We get to speak about their books. And of course, I said I love books and I'm an avid reader. So before we close today, remember to go over, I believe it's on Amazon. I found it over there. You can find it. God's Golden Sword is seen in my dreams for others. You can find that there. And you could probably, I'm assuming if you do a search, you'll be able to find all of Carol's others books. And we're out of time today. And we just want to say thank you again. And we'll see you next time on the Author Spotlight. Bye-bye.
Thank you.